What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we're going to be looking at the second rules roundup from the Transformers TCG. Every week they answer our ruling questions, and I'm going to be back every week, as long as you wish me to, of course, to go through these rules, explain them, show you the pictures of the cards while I do, hopefully make a whole bunch of sense. This week it was largely about combiners and upgrades, but there are a few other things to talk about. So let's jump in, shall we? So, starting off, Motormaster's ability, are both character cards and battle cards considered to be cards? The answer is yes. Now really here with Motormaster, we are talking about the alt mode skill. The alt mode skill for Motormaster prevents your other Transformers, not Motormaster, from taking non-attack damage. So this means it would work for skills. Think of something like Thundercracker, just as much as it would work for a battle card. Think something like Zap. None of those would be able to target other Transformers on your side of the field while Motormaster is out and while Motormaster is in alt mode. I do have a video for Motormaster coming in the next couple of days. It's a really great card with a whole bunch of uses, and we're going to have a chat. So Autobot Mirage has a very nice ability whereby when you flick it into alt mode, you get to play an action card. But we looked the other day at a very fun new battle card, Cornered. And Cornered lets you flip over one of your opponent's Transformers. You get to force them to flip. Now you only get them to flip from bot mode into alt mode, but that's relevant because Autobot Mirage's skill comes in alt mode. And we talked last week about the fact that if you play Cornered, your opponent does get any when you flip to this mode skill that they would get if it happened on their turn. So if you played something like a rapid conversion, you'd be fine. Your opponent plays Cornered, you flip Autobot Mirage into alt mode, you then play rapid conversion and get to flip one of your other Transformers, and yes, you would get to use their skill as well. The question here is about the card All Out Attack. Now, All Out Attack says each of your untapped Transformers can attack this turn. You cannot use that on Autobot Mirage if your opponent plays Cornered, and the reason is, yes, you can play an action card, but no, you cannot attack on your opponent's turn. That is something that is not allowed. So you can't use Autobot Mirage to use All Out Attack after a Cornered. There was also a question asked this week about ChopShop, and at what point does the upgrade you move take effect? Now, to remind you of what ChopShop actually does, it's got a rather nice skill in bot mode. When you attack, you may move an upgrade from one of your characters to this one. And the question is, when does the upgrade actually work? Because when do you get the extra attack? Do you get the extra attack now, or do you get it after the attack? And it said, or the Facebook page that gave us the ruling said, you would get the benefits of the upgrade immediately, with the exception of abilities that triggers ChopShop attacking, because that event would have already passed. So let's say, for argument's sake, when you're attacking, you go ahead and you move over an upgrade card, let's say something like Armed Hovercraft. Now, Armed Hovercraft would give you +1 attack, and you would get that +1 attack immediately, which is lovely. Now, Armed Hovercraft also says that when you put it on a ranged character, you do 1 damage to each enemy. Now, that's not relevant because ChopShop is a melee character and it is an Insecticon. So you don't have to worry about that. It doesn't work. But what if you moved over Datapad? Datapad reads, when the upgraded character attacks, draw a card, then you may put a card from your hand on top of your deck. Well, essentially what happens here is you say, I'm attacking, the attack starts, you move over Datapad, and then you can't draw a card because you draw a card when you attack, when you start the attack, and the attack has essentially already started, you've missed it. You would get any extra attack from something like Armed Hovercraft, but you would not get a skill from something like Datapad. So, there were then a whole bunch of questions all about combiners, largely focusing on upgrades here. And if we start off keeping it very simple, here are the rules when you combine Transformer characters into a combiner. You get to keep 1 weapon, 1 armor, and 1 utility. The exception is Predaking, of course, who has 5 weapon slots, so you could keep up to 5 weapons, along with 1 armor and 1 utility. Okay. You get to move anything you like, and you get to keep them even if it doesn't have the same designation, the combiner doesn't, as its minions that combined into it. So let's say, for argument's sake, you are taking Optimus Maximus. Now, there are a bunch of melee characters that combine into Optimus Maximus. One example of this would be Ironhide. Ironhide is a melee character, ergo it can have upgrades like Power Sword, which can only be attached to a melee character, and Body Armor, which can only be attached to a melee character. The problem is that Optimus Maximus is not a melee character. It is a ranged Sentinel leader. But it's just like when you flip from alt mode into bot mode or vice versa. The only thing that matters is when it's attached. Because it's attached to Ironhide and Ironhide is combining, you're absolutely fine. You get to keep the Power Sword even though it ends up on a non-melee character. I mean, to give a great example of this, we could take something like Autobot Mirage that we've previously mentioned. That is a melee character when you're in alt mode, but a ranged character when it's in bot mode. So when it's in alt mode, you can attach a Power Sword because it's a melee character, and even if you then flip into bot mode and it's no longer a melee character, you get to keep it. Same with the combiners. You get to move 1 weapon, 1 utility, 1 armor over, and it is all to do with were they properly attached. And as long as they're properly attached, you can move them to a combiner regardless of whether the combiner has the same designation here. Now, there were a couple other clarifications along these lines. There was a question that specifically mentioned cargo trailer. So there are a couple of trucks that we saw as combiners recently. Motormaster is a truck, and Ironhide is a truck. So what about cargo trailer? Now, cargo trailer basically says that you get +1 attack for each cargo trailer on the character. So 1 cargo trailer +1 attack, 2 cargo trailers +4 attack, 2 times 2, 3 cargo trailers +9 attack, 3 times 3. And cargo trailer says up to 3 cargo trailers can fit in its utility slot. Now, this one I think is slightly less intuitive than the other rulings we've mentioned, because cargo trailer can be put onto a truck, 3 in the utility slot. What happens when you combine it into a combiner like Optimus Maximus, which is in fact not a truck? Yeah, you're fine, you can transfer all 3 cargo trailers. And the rule holds quite nicely. If they were properly attached to the little bot, they stay for the big bot. So even though the big bot isn't a truck and shouldn't be able to have 3 cargo trailers in 1 utility slot, because there was a truck that had them, which combined into it, you're absolutely fine. You can take all 3 over. But you don't get any skills. So let's say something like Armed Hovercraft, which we previously mentioned. Armed Hovercraft, when you attach it to a ranged character, do 1 damage to each enemy. So I previously told you that Optimus Maximus is a ranged character. So what you could do is, if you attach Armed Hovercraft to Autobot Hot Rod, who will be used as an example at every possible opportunity, because I love him, then you would get the 1 damage to each of your opponent's characters by virtue of attaching it to a ranged character. But when you then combined into Optimus Maximus, you can move over the Armed Hovercraft, but you would not get to use the ability again, and the ruling here is extremely simple. You are moving it over while combining, you are not attaching it. The other thing to mention here, of course, is that Optimus Maximus is a ranged character, so if you just attached it to them during your turn, you would get to do 1 damage to each of your opponent's characters. Now, the other question I do want to get to here, when you play an Enigma of Combination to combine your characters, do you get the top effect, or do you just get to combine? So if we look at something like Dinobot Enigma, I know it's not looking like it's going to be the best of them, but it's my favourite, so again, that is going to be the example we use here. Dinobot Enigma reads, if you have Volcanicus on the battlefield, he gets bold too. If you have 5 Dinobots in bot mode on the battlefield and or in your KO area, combine them into Volcanius Fiery Champion. And they say you perform the actions on the card in the order they're written, which dictates when effects are applicable to a given scenario. For example, if you've already played an Enigma to combine, you would receive the top bonus. So if we look at Dinobot Enigma, do you have a Volcanius already on the field? If yes, they get bold too, and the second bit isn't relevant because you've already combined. If you don't have Volcanicus on the field, you read the top part of the card and go, oh, I don't have Volcanicus, then you read the second part and combine, but that Volcanicus does not get bold too on the first turn because you've already gone past that bit of the text and then combined. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. They are the rulings for this week. I will be back either Friday evening, Saturday afternoon next week, depending on what time the news is dropped, to explain all of these to you, so you don't have to worry your pretty little head about them. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, tell me what you think about this. Tell me what you think about all of these rulings. Do any of them surprise you? Are you happy about them? Go nuts in the comment section. But please do remember the most important rule as always. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk Transformers and other games. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.